One. I think Luigi Matsumoto is going to sue somebody. Alright.
Welcome, mummies, daddies, and jelly babies, to the 76th episode of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 15th of October 2014 and featuring Mummy on the Orient Express, written by Paul Wilmshurst. As ever, you can find playlists of your favorite podcast topics on youtube.com/maninblackreviews, and you can like, follow, tumble, tweet, press, or hate us at facebook.com/unearthlypodcast, twitter.com/unearthlypod, and twitch.tv/madmat2185. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell.
Hello.
Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Always a pleasure.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Hello.
And Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Glad to know you.
Our news starts with our least popular segment today, Lost Stories, Deaths in Doctor Who. Randy?
Okay, well, we actually have two deaths this week, the first of which is actor Barry Summerford, who appeared in 24 episodes of Doctor Who during the Tom Baker era, including Revenge of the Cybermen, Rebus Operation, Keeper of Traken, where so he died at age 71, so not quite what we consider a good run here. The next is Michael Hayes, who was a director also during the Tom Baker era, including The Androids of Terra, The Armageddon Factor, and the following year City of Death. He died at 85, which does make him qualify for our official Unearthly podcast Good Run at Life.
Barry Summerford's article mentioned he was a Vogan. I thought it said a Vogon for a second. Different species.
Yes.
Very different.
Yes, Vogons were the keepers of the planet of gold in Revenge of the Cybermen, if I recall. But moving on, first thing we should note is in the airings, Forest of the Night has been confirmed on the 25th October to be airing at 8:20, which again is moving upwards from previous times, gaining on Strictly Come Dancing. And also, publicity photos were issued for the episode Flatline, which is coming up this Saturday, 8:25 p.m. in the UK, and 9 p.m., 8 p.m. Central on BBC America. Take a couple moments to look at these. Nothing really particularly out of the ordinary in these pictures, except the Doctor apparently supporting some very bizarre-looking eyewear down there in the lower left-hand corner.
We got Clara with the sonic screwdriver, which is very clearly the same one as Matt Smith's in that close-up.
Yeah, I was actually wondering about that. Now
Yeah.
That's my question. That we'll probably see a change in that when, Moffat leaves and the production team changes.
Yep.
Or the screwdriver might regenerate when we change companions.
Something like that. All right, moving on to Mummy on the Orient Express, which we will be talking about in depth later. 5.08 million viewers in England watched Mummy on the Orient Express, according to their unofficial overnight figures.
I think that's a little higher than previous weeks.
It is, because we've been just short of the 5 million mark. We've been short of the 5 million mark before finals, or just over it before finals, and this is the or excuse me, just over the mark after finals, and this is still very early marks. And they had 22.1% share of the audience. Again, they were the third most after Strictly Come Dancing and The X Factor.
No, it was
All
the latest showing of Doctor Who in its entire history.
Yep, at 8:37 p.m.
In 51
So-
years.
Apparently, the air times that they're giving us for these are approximate. So it basically comes on whenever Strictly Come Dancing ends, and they can kind of guess when that's going to happen. Relating to that, in Australia, it had strong competition from the commercial networks and averaged 526,000 in the 5 major Australian capital cities, and was the 19th highest rating program of the day overall in the big cities. I think that's still losing a little bit from where it's been previously. Mummy on the Orient Express in the UK also had an audience appreciation index of 85. This is the highest score that we've seen for Doctor Who since Day of the Doctor.
Do we know what Day of the Doctor's AI was?
No, I would have to do research.
I do know that everything from Deep Breath onward had an 82, 83, or 84.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Time was somewhere along that as well.
It might have been even in the 90s. We don't know. Like I said, I'll look for it, but no guarantees.
But yeah, this is the highest this season, so yay for that.
Yep. Final ratings for Kill the Moon from the previous week turned out to be 6.91 million. According to the consultant figures, these are everything but the on-demand watching, essentially. Its final positioning will be available later. The Caretaker from the week before, its chart placing was the 20th most available program for the week in British television. It was the 7th most watched program on the BBC, with Strictly Come Dancing taking number 1. Overall, Downtown Abbey was the highest rated program with 10.46 million, and that's ITV. And The X Factor is also ahead of it. The top soaps, Coronation Street, EastEnders, and Emmerdale, all considered BBC classics, were all in the top 20. The last Doctor Who episode to fall outside the top 20 was Nightmare in Silver from 7th season. That was the Neil Gaiman one.
Yeah, which is kind of odd.
And in side-related news, the next edition of the behind-the-scenes Doctor Who Extra, that is kind of the more modern version of Doctor Who Confidential for longtime New Who viewers, is going to be available on Red Button service Saturday at 9:20 to 5:55 a.m. Again, this is GMT. Monday.
Yeah, this is something we haven't. It's been weekly, but we haven't really covered it every week since this is pretty much a Britain exclusive thing. Although apparently they are coming up on YouTube for international viewers.
Yes.
So in short, yay.
I wish you could have waited till after I stated the hours, Bill. Okay, repeating, that is Saturday from 9:20 p.m. to 5:55 a.m. GMT. Monday from 9:40 a.m. to 11:55 a.m. Monday again from 3:15 to 7:55 p.m. And Friday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m.
That's quite
This
the gap.
edition of Doctor Who Extra covers Mummy on the Orient Express.
That's quite the gap in airings, but okay.
Well, there's a lot of things on Red Button service. It's not exactly on demand. You push the button, you get this particular item between these times. So it's kind of a limited. The other time slots are available for other stuff. Okay, going to another regular one we have, awards. It is time, once again, for voting for the National Television Awards, this time for the 2015 showing. And Doctor Who is on the list for drama category. There's 34 productions in the drama category at this stage. This is not the final vote. This is the preliminaries. And it's up against such shows as Atlantis, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Musketeers, Sherlock, again.
Of course.
among others. These are the ones that most people will recognize. The Musketeers, if you remember, was Peter Capaldi's show prior to Doctor Who. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is, of course, the Marvel Cinematic Universe brought to TV. And Atlantis was on BBC America around the same time that the 7th series of Doctor Who was on. Also, the combined drama performance, both Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman are nominated for their Doctor Who roles, as is David Tennant for his role in the series The Escape Artist.
As well as John Sims and Derek Chick. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead, add those.
Oh, as well as John Sims and Derek. Is it pronounced Jacoby? Jacoby.
Sir Derek Jacobi. You have to add the sir.
Yes.
Yes, all of those are in there, as is Martin Freeman, who people might remember as being Arthur Dent in the Hitchhiker's movie, among other roles. There are some 50 people in this category at this time. And a number of them are Doctor Who from past and present. I'm not going to get into all of them, but if you are interested, you can go to the National Television Awards website and place your vote. As far as we can tell, anybody can vote from any country, interestingly enough.
Well, it's called National for a reason, obviously.
Also in the awards is the fact that An Adventure in Space and Time, the special that aired around the same time as the 50th anniversary last year, has been nominated for an International Emmy Award. This is the International Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. This was announced at a press conference in Cannes. It has been previously nominated for a BAFTA and a Critics' Choice Award, but has lost in both cases.
Come on, guys, it's our one chance.
It is up against Alexander and Other Heroes from Global TV Brazil, Radio from TV Man Union in NHK, so that's a Japanese production, and Unsere Mutter, Unsere Vater, which is, I believe, from Germany.
Generation War, the motion comic.
The actual International Emmy Awards will be taking place on November 24th, 2014 at the New York Hilton Hotel. In other news, Lala Ward is having a book come out celebrating her adventures as Ramana Devretnalundar in Doctor Who during the Tom Baker era, released by Phantom Films. The book is called Time Capsule and is designed and edited by Paul W.T. Ballard. It contains remembrances from Ward herself on each of her stories, along a bunch of visual material, including photographs from filming, photocalls, reproduction of costume designs, and stunning original artwork by Doctor Who artists Alistair Pearson and Andrew Skilleter. Cool. All profits from this limited edition book are being donated to Denville Hall. You can order the book from the Phantom Films website.
What is Denville Hall?
Good question.
Care home for elderly actors.
A care home for elderly actors.
Nice. Very nice, yeah.
So, might be investing in her own eventual future or those of people she knows.
Yes, quite.
That's pretty cool.
And unrelated to Doctor Who news, the CW TV series The Flash has announced that they have cast Dr. Martin Stein, half of Firestorm, as Alias's Victor Garber. Anybody here watch Alias?
I do.
The only thing he'd appeared in that I recognized on IMDb was Titanic.
Yeah, I don't know the actor that well, but apparently a lot of people think that that's a wonderful piece of casting. Thus far, I have not been disappointed in anything that production team has done, really, for casting.
So, what character is this?
The Flash, or it's the series that spun off from Arrow.
This is the professor that was part of Firestorm. If you're familiar with the hero Firestorm.
Yeah, he's the brains part.
Firestorm sounds vaguely familiar,
He,
but I'm not going to look him up right now.
His powers are similar. If I had to compare him to anyone, I'd say Captain Atom, I'm thinking. Is that about right?
I don't
Would you
know.
say?
I'm honestly a little unfamiliar with the character.
He basically has the power to change the genetic makeup of things using essentially a beam.
Oh, him.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, I've seen images of him.
Not genetic. I'm sorry, chemical makeup. That's
this basically
misspeaking.
going on with the way that the Flash has been working is the fact that there was a huge explosion of basically a nuclear accelerator that has basically flooded their city with weird abilities, or with weird radiation and weird particles that are giving people weird powers. So you can probably expect that he's a local that has somehow gotten some of this new radiation type, as well as the other half of that. Which was that cast previously?
Ronnie was cast as the I forget the name of the actor, but the brother of the actor that plays Ollie Queen is playing Ronnie Raymond.
Okay. Anybody else have any other news?
Do you want me to add in my bits?
Yes.
Okay, so I will put this up here first. I did mention this a little bit to everyone, of course. Mark Leonard, if he was around today, he would have been 90 years old today. Most of us will remember him as Sarek, the father of Spock.
You know, which makes that kind of interesting, because if you look at how old Leonard Nimoy is, if you go by character age, being around the same as actor age, Mark Leonard would have been about 8 when Spock was conceived.
He looked old for his age, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
I will say that after he started acting, he didn't age too much.
No,
At least not extremely
might have
fast.
had just one of those early old faces.
Mm-hmm.
He might, for those too old to remember Spock's father, you might recognize him as the first Romulan.
If
That's
you're not
right.
old enough to remember Spock's father, you're not going to remember the first Romulan either, Bill.
No, I said if you're too old to remember him as Spock's father.
He also played a Klingon in the motion picture.
Did he?
Did he?
Yeah, one of the first Klingons that
Had
hit the
headphones?
cloud. That was Mark Leonard, I believe.
Huh. I actually didn't recognize him from that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'd have to look that up.
I know that all the language for the Klingons in that particular movie was actually made by James Doohan. And then was later expanded upon by people like Okuda and those that actually fleshed out the Klingon language.
And wrapped it all up and made it its own language these days.
Now they needed it by Star Trek 3. Okay.
And I have one more item if we have time for it.
We have 2 minutes, Matt. Go.
All right, and it's very quick. GOG.com, always known as goodoldgames.com. They do more than just old games nowadays, but they recently just got Aliens vs. Predator. This is the classic 2000 version, and they are releasing it for free in order to beta test their new online servers for multiplayer. And it's going to be free yet for another 30 hours. It'll end sometime early on Friday.
I might have to get that just because it's free. I probably won't download it.
GOG is awesome. They have a ton of free stuff just for signing up.
From GOG before.
Ah.
Mostly the Warlords Battlecry series I'm immensely fond of.
Yeah, I keep an eye on GOG because they tend to do all kinds of awesome free offers every now and again, and this is no exception. So congrats to everyone who's paid attention and gets this game for free.
Okay. So that will wrap up our news, both Doctor Who and other, which we have done in less than half an hour, guys. So give ourselves a round of applause.
Less than 20 minutes.
Actually,
Cool.
yeah.
Wow.
That's the way the news should be done.
That is the fastest round of news we've had.
Mm-hmm. Pretty
So-
good job, guys.
Is there any other side comments or side commentary that anyone wants to make?
I'm good for the moment.
Well, this is something I was going to bring up when we were talking on the Firestorm thing, and I don't want to spoil the Flash episode 2, but for those who are Firestorm fans, just keep an ear out for a certain name being dropped when you watch the episode. If you're a serious Firestorm fan, you might already know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to spoil the episode by going into more
well,
detail.
the thing is, both Arrow and The Flash, which are both really good series, in my opinion. Arrow was taped tonight, and I intend to watch it after the podcast or after Erin goes to bed. Because she's not caught up yet. Is they do drop a lot of names and references.
True.
For example, in the first episode of The Flash, they're touring Star Labs, which is where this accelerator exploded, and you can see a bent cage with the words Grodd on it.
They also, I recently noticed this rewatching series season 2 on Netflix, but they also include a poem that's with the name of Solomon Grundy, which, if I'm remembering right, is the king that Grodd is fighting against.
No, Solomon Grundy is a villain in his own right. He is
Then
basically...
who am I thinking of?
Not a clue, but Solomon Grundy is this weird white guy.
Yeah,
like pasty white guy.
One of the characters in that season has Solomon Grundy's actual name.
Oh, okay. So probably the same guy who had the poem on his table.
But yeah, even watching like episodes of stuff, I'm looking at names. For instance, I heard the name of the villain that was in the episode of The Flash this week and looked him up, and he was a DC villain. And they used his supervillain name at the end of the episode, Multiplex. And I'm like, wow. The thing with some of these guys is there's a lot of characters that have similar powers. So first I thought he was maybe Billy Numerous.
Oh, it was King Salavar that I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Solomon Grundy's somebody else. People that remember the old Toonami Adult Swim cuts will remember Solomon Grundy want pants too.
Brainiac, what's your plan?
Back to the old 70s Challenge of the Super Friends.
Brainiac, what's your problem?
I believe Solomon Grundy is frequently put up against Superman, I think.
Superman and Flash, depending.
He makes
I associate him with Batman,
Superman,
actually.
I believe his reanimation is magic, and Superman is, of course, weak to magic.
So yeah, that's when he's reanimated. That's when they definitely want to throw him at Superman.
Whereas Gorilla City is generally associated with the Flash.
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen Gorilla Grodd fight other superheroes, but yeah, I think it's normally the Flash continuity.
Well, that's just like, yeah, Lex has fought other people, the Joker has fought other people. They're pretty much everybody's fought everyone at this point.
But yeah, I highly recommend Arrow and the Flash to anybody that wants to get into television, DC television. I would say watch the first 2 seasons of the Arrow first before watching The Flash.
Because that's where they get introductions done.
Yep. Because kind of the prologue to The Flash is in Arrow.
Yeah.
And then from season 3, the 2 episodes are kind of happening more or less simultaneously. And I believe there is going to be a little bit of crossover. I know that one of the, what's considered the Flash Rogues villains is going to be on Arrow early this season.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ollie ends up teaching Barry how to fight.
It's possible. We don't know for certain.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of an end-of-season montage training spree or something.
We're having kind of a combined finale. That'd be kind of cool.
Tell me that they play Hearts on Fire.
Episode happening in each show. It's kind of the way Buffy and Angel was originally planned to be, though they kind of went off more independently than they initially thought. And to an extent how Doctor Who and Torchwood was.
Felicity shows up in the last episode of the Flash season to tell them that Ollie is dead.
That's your guess?
No, it was a joke based on the similar format to
Okay.
the
I was
Buffy
going to say,
Angel
because
thing.
if you were spoilerizing things from me, Bill, I would have to kill you.
No, it was
Bill, you have a long history.
It was a joke about Willow showing up in the one of the Angel season finales.
Oh, okay. Been a long time since I've watched all of Angel.
I thought you had watched. Oh, never mind. You had watched all of Buffy right before I
watched
started
all of
watching
Buffy,
both
and I
shows.
watched like the first season of Angel.
Got you.
But then I kind of got sidetracked on other things because I think somebody introduced me to Walking Dead. Hi, Aaron.
Hey.
Yes, as you can tell, we are all geeks here. We watch a lot of things. They're not just restricted to Doctor Who. I myself am a diehard Star Trek fan as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm basically spending my time between keeping myself up on all my TV shows.
Oh, speaking of which, was it the date or just the year of Star Trek 3 that was announced this week? They were announced that it was going to be the same year as the 50th anniversary. I'm thinking that was 2016.
Couldn't tell you.
If it's up, Wikipedia will have it. This would be Star Trek 13.
All I'm seeing is 2016, so I think they only announced the year.
Filming to begin sometime in early 2015.
And if you hadn't heard, apparently William Shatner claimed he was contacted about a cameo role or just a role in the movie.
That'd be nice.
So,
well, it depends.
I hope he appears as Denny Crane.
I mean, Nimoy can make cameos in there because Nimoy, of course, went sideways into the other universe. What are they going to use Shatner for?
The what was it called? Was it? My brain is saying ribbon, but I don't know if that's right.
Nexus.
The Nexus.
Ribbon,
Maybe
yeah.
the Nexus spat him out into two different universes. One of them, he was much older than he was in the other one.
So William Shatner gets to overact and ham up another universe.
I'm back, Spock. I found you.
Oh shit! Shatner's here. Hide the green women. Chris Pine's doing a good enough job with that.
Hide the green women and hide the buffet.
Okay, so we should probably get on to start talking about the episode.
Yep.
We've all seen the episode, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Hope so.
Yep.
All right. So anybody beside me want to do the summary?
Can I do it?
If you
Yeah.
want,
Sure.
try to make it succinct.
Okay, so Mummy on the Orient Express is about, surprise, a mummy on the Orient Express. Except this Orient Express is in space.
Because being
And the
in
mummy
space-
is a creature that, a mystical creature that kills you, but it only appears to the person that it is about to kill, and it kills you in 66 seconds. And because they knew they were to get trolled for this, they add a stop clock in the corner of the screen every time the mummy appears that counts down to 66 seconds. So, it starts off with killing an old lady who's about 109 years old, and it goes on from there. And how does the Doctor fit into all this? The Doctor is traveling with Clara, as sort of it's supposed to be one last,
hurrah, I believe is
hurrah,
what they use.
one last fling before she says she retires to living a schoolteacher's life. And, alright, so then the Doctor finds out that, oh, a mummy that is only seen by its victim, that reminds me of something called the Foretold. Apparently there's this ancient myth called the Foretold, that describes a mummy that is only seen by its victim. And he learns that the everyone on board the train is a scientist of some sort, like an archaeologist or a mythologist or a doctor. And he discovers that they've been assembled on this train deliberately to study the foretold. And meanwhile, Clara gets very upset at this because she thinks the doctor knew that the foretold was going to be on the train. And the doctor says, I didn't know that. Well, I had a suspicion, but I didn't know. So the doctor assembles the team of scientists, and they're all being held hostage by the train's computer named Gus. Who is Gus working for? We're not exactly sure about that. But their mission is to study the foretold and capture it. And through the process of elimination, like every time the foretold appears to someone, the doctor is all like, oh, tell me what you see. And they're all like, it's coming towards me. Oh, I don't want to die. Oh my god. It's bandages, it's a mummy, And so then the doctor has a brilliant idea. Through the process of logic and elimination, he finds out who the next victim is going to be. He finds out that the mummy has been preying upon the weak and sickly, like the old woman first, then someone who had a disease, then someone who had artificial lungs, then someone who was suffering from panic attacks. So by that basis, he finds out that a woman who was the granddaughter of the first victim is going to be the next victim because of her feelings of resentment and psychological issues. So, just as the mummy appears to that woman, the doctor uses a handy scanning device and takes the woman's symptoms and puts them on himself. Meaning that the foretold thinks the doctor is supposed to be the victim. So now the foretold is coming after the doctor. And using his intelligence, the doctor figures out that the foretold was a soldier. And to stop the foretold, you have to say, I surrender. Which neutralizes the effect. So the doctor surrenders to the foretold, the mummy disintegrates into a pile of dust, and in the pile of dust there's this device, a device that was animating the mummy, and Gus says, well, now that you figured that out, there's no point in keeping all of you alive, and the entire train starts to decompress, and they all, start gasping for air, but luckily, the doctor is able to use the transporting device that was in the mummy to teleport all the passengers safely onto the TARDIS, and then they go on to the next nearest civilized planet. And it ends quite happily with Clara deciding, you know what, the doctor's not that bad after all. Maybe I should stick around for a little bit.
Okay.
Yep, that more or less wraps it up.
Yep.
Okay. One of the things that I really liked about this episode was the set design. It's
Yes.
obvious that this is where a good chunk of this filming block's budget went.
I have to say that due to other things I have going on, that I have seen another train-based movie, and both movies did an excellent job at doing trains and making them feel not say overly just clean or anything, but making them like these nice isolated, contained, almost claustrophobic areas, but not so uneasily so at the very beginning, but slowly working towards that as the story moves on.
I have seen it. I have seen it mentioned, and I do, in looking back, agree with it and appreciate this fact that none of the cliche scenes that you assume are going to be in any episode about a train appear in this episode. There's not a chase through the halls. There's not a gunfight on the roof of the train,
Nope.
for obvious reasons. But still, any of
Because
that.
it's in space.
Yeah, I mean, granted, the Doctor does have a spacesuit, but it doesn't happen. Is the point?
He's not wearing it right now.
No,
Yeah,
but
he can't
Pulled
get
it out
to
of
it.
back and
nowhere.
get
It
it.
would be a little issuey. It'd become a bit Scooby-Doo, really. I mean, Mummy on a train, the first thing that my brain goes to is Scooby-Doo. I hate to say it.
If it was
Yeah.
Scooby Doo, then that first guy that he interviewed about it would have been the Mummy.
True. Or it would have been the cop.
Hmm.
Or it could have been like a combination of the
Or
two
actually, it
Agatha
might have
Christie
been-
novels, Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile.
No, wait. It would have been the girl whose grandma died working together with the cop.
And they would have gotten away from it if it wasn't for the meddling kids and the stupid dog.
Wait, which one's the meddling kid and which one's the stupid dog?
Take your pick.
Oh,
But yeah, I really liked the set production work on this. It was very, very good. And of course, the BBC is always known for its costumes.
Mm-hmm.
I actually would have liked it a little more if the costumes were a little less authentic. Because
Yeah, there
that's
were a few
all-
more touches that were slightly off, like the guy with the cybernetic eye.
Yeah, I would have liked to see a little more of that, considering the fact that these are essentially some unknown time in the future. If you want to use the generic Doctor Who 51st century.
Would you have preferred if there was a guy giving poor lectures on what he thinks is the history of the Orient?
No, that would just be silly,
Except
not to mention
that was kind of
reusing
done on
old
Voyage of
footage.
the Damned.
That was my point. Yeah.
What I would have loved to have seen is something that looked like a 1920s outfit, yet it had like the freaking LCD panels on it.
That would have been nice, yeah.
Hmm.
Or some more extra cybernetics, or even an extra alien or two somewhere in the background, maybe. Because not all of them need to be human. Again,
Yeah,
this is
that
sometime
would
in
have
the
been
future.
nice. Would have been a couple of aliens also writing to let you know that it's not just human only.
Mhm.
I did like the fact that the song that the 1920s lounge singer on the train was singing was actually Queen.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And that, by the way, was Fox's the person that
Wait.
we were.
I thought her song was supposed to be original.
No, it was "Don't Stop Me Now."
They said she was. So when they said original track, they meant it was the first recording of her singing it.
Yes, but it was still a cover.
Good motherfucker.
Wow, Bill,
don't
you
know
didn't
what
pay attention at all.
People don't know what original means. Well, one, like I enjoy Queen, but I'm not enough of a fan to seek out every work they have. So if it's not something I've heard a lot, I'm not likely to
Whoa,
recognize
whoa,
it.
whoa, whoa, whoa. You don't know Don't Stop Me Now?
I don't think I do. Like if you played it in the original
Oh.
Queen, I might recognize it, but off the top of my head, I wouldn't know it.
Don't stop me now.
Having
having such a good time. I'm having a ball.
Don't stop.
My point
me
is
now.
when you hear that a singer-songwriter who is new and trying to, build herself up in the industry is contributing an original track to this episode, you assume she's going to be writing and singing something new.
Well, technically, she did reword the song.
She did reword it a little bit, and she also made it a very, very different rendition of it by making it more old school.
Yeah, it is definitely not your traditional cover of "Don't Stop Me Now."
Now
Yeah.
that all said, somebody who's supposed to be 1920s singing Queen is a hell of a lot closer to a lot closer to accurate than the jukebox. The how old jukebox was it supposed to be? Playing was it?
The 70s
Was it
jukebox that was
Toxic?
playing like 2000s music, and they
Well,
called it
no,
an
Okay, if it
iPad
was a
one that
70s
it played.
jukebox,
or
actually, that's
iPhone.
not that far off. That's not as far off
The
then. Okay.
jukebox playing
It
Toxic.
was Britney Spears. I think it was Toxic.
Tainted Love. That was fine. But yeah, Britney Spears Toxic would not have been on a 70s era jukebox. Unless, of course, it was like a 20-something recreation of a 70-year-old jukebox. So
Well, I know for a fact that those things still work, and I know a couple of A&Ws that even have modern music on those things. So yeah,
really,
yeah,
you know W's that still have jukeboxes?
oh
Wow.
yeah. There's one a
There's
couple
a
towns over.
jukebox.
Yeah,
Yeah,
A
there's a
and W's aren't that big up here. There's one A and W, and it's also a KFC, and it does not have anything of the
I want to
sort.
say I know of about 4 or 5 A&Ws in this state that I can think of off the
See,
top of my
Yeah.
head.
all of my good A&W's are out of business. There used to be one down in Spring Green that still had it where you pulled up and they walked out and took your order.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
don't. Those are a dying breed, so I didn't actually think there were that many left in the state.
I know for a fact there's one in
We have
Appleton.
one up in Manitowoc and Two Rivers. We have one up there, and then there's also a jukebox in the Rathskeller in Memorial Union, or at least there was when I worked there.
I
But
can't
did
name
it play
locations.
modern music? Is the question.
It does play modern music.
Because
So,
that one
but,
you actually saw it playing 78s, which I didn't think they made 78s anymore.
I'm
They do
pretty
for
sure.
DJs.
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure there's a way to make them. I would assume.
Yeah, most music is still coming out in older formats, specifically for DJs.
Mm. I didn't think DJs played 78s. I thought they played 32s.
I'm honestly not. I honestly could not tell you honestly.
32s are the big disc ones. 78s are the smaller ones that spun faster.
Oh, okay.
Basically, 78s were done for singles, and 32s were usually done for whole albums.
What are 45s?
Actually, I might be thinking 45s when I'm saying 78s.
Okay.
That might be my bad.
But tangent.
But yeah, tangenting.
Sorry.
Bing!
Vinyl formats are not my expertise.
I will say that my family still actually collects them. Matter of fact, I technically own 2 vinyls now.
I don't even own tapes anymore.
Yeah, my household has an interesting history with records because when my parents divorced, the record player went one way and the records went the other way.
Not the brightest move, but
Nobody was happy about that.
Years ago, I moved
Nobody
to
was
tapes.
happy
I gave
about
up my
that.
tapes for CDs, and now I'm giving up my CDs for digital formats. So
I'm
moved
still
the
not
time
doing digital
there.
format. I'm still doing CDs, man.
I would, except that requires storage space to have them. Right now, I think I have at least 2 boxes in my storage locker in Arlington that are just packed full of CDs.
And this
Most
is
of
the
them
last thing.
Japanese.
This is
What?
the last thing I'm going. This is the last thing I'm going to say on this particular topic because we are going a little too far into the tangent.
Yes, we are.
But the last physical CD I bought was specifically because due to the lack of female representation in the genre, so I went out and bought Nicki Minaj's first CD when she first came out, and
Okay.
that was the last physical CD I bought.
Okay, so yeah, we were talking about the set. We were talking about having her sing that. Yeah, if anything, it was a little 220s for me.
I was fine with it. Mm.
But that's if anything.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's one of those. It would have been a nice touch, but didn't ruin the episode.
No, it did not ruin the episode in the least for me.
No.
I'm just saying that if I was making it, I would have made it a little less authentic.
But then they might have had to cut away a few seconds. They might not have been able to show the Sky Dragon in the previous episode. If they
What
made
did you guys
another
think of the
costume.
Mummy?
What was
And
that?
Dead Air. What did you guys
That-
think of the Mummy?
that's where actually the too authentic thing really hits for me, because it really, while it was a great effect, there's no reason for this alien technology to look like an Earth mummy.
Yeah, that is true.
And while
Well,
that
maybe
is
their mummies look exactly like our mummies, like Time Lords look like humans.
while that may also be true, it does seem that this is some sort of alien by the guess of the text on both the mummy's chest as well as the item that apparently it's attached to.
Yeah.
Also, as far as we can tell, it's an alien mummy.
Yeah, I'm thinking the reason for the bandages might be a little different than our authentic mummies, but I'm thinking this, as mentioned in the episode, this was a soldier in a war. Imagine if he was wounded to the point that he needed like a full body wrap,
True.
and
But
then the
isn't
thing
he
that
a hologram soldier?
what's that?
Isn't he like a hologram soldier
No.
though?
No, he's not a hologram. He is made out of energy, and the
Yeah,
energy is trying
not even
to
made out of
recreate
energy.
the exact same thing.
The only thing that's keeping him from going to dust is the fact that he's got this alien tech on the inside that's basically
Then
like
why is he only visible to one person at a time and other people can pass through him?
Because
go if
yeah,
go,
the alien tech permeates his cells and allows him to turn invisible. That's what I got from
well,
it.
it's not invisible. He moves.
Yeah.
He moves out of phase, out
Yeah.
of time slightly, and he is only his victims are only able to see him because he's pulling them slightly out of time.
If he's out of phase with time, why can't a Time Lord detect him without a screwdriver?
Because it might not be time sense, it might be dimensional. I don't know. It just said out of phase.
Yeah, they didn't
Yeah,
exactly
they
say
didn't
it was a time phase
specify.
either.
And speaking of that, I had a theory that maybe, since like it's a being of energy out of phase, maybe he's not really a mummy. He just appears as a mummy to his victims because all his victims were human beings. Maybe if he had stalked another creature, it would have appeared as a mummified creature like that.
So like if he appeared
wasn't-
to a Dalek, he would be a broken down Dalek casing.
Except for the fact that he wasn't really an energy being. Like I said, he normally was out of phase, whether you think of that temporally or dimensionally, which meant that he was not seen by normal people because that was part of the tech upgrades to give him stealth.
the great grandchild of Kitty Pryde.
Only she could go intangible, not invisible, too.
So it's the grandchild of Kitty Pryde and Franklin Richards.
There we go.
Well, do you guys... There was an episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation, where...
Well, there were several episodes of Star Trek.
Well, if you'd let me finish, Tim. Where Geordi and I believe Ensign Rowe, I think, were caught in a
Excuse me.
transporter accident that rendered them out of phase. So everybody thought they were dead. And the only reason that they were detectable was where they would pass through solid objects, they would leave a slight radiation trail. So I'm thinking the mummy was kind of like that.
I kind of feel like now I should have watched the Space Museum as research for this.
That was out of time phase, if I recall the Space Museum.
Yes.
But mind you, it has been decades since I've seen that particular
It
episode.
was something to that effect, yes.
Regardless, yeah, he was a soldier, and it was basically, the whole thing was an analogy between what that chair was for the old lady keeping her alive, was basically the alien tech was basically a super-powered version of that. So it's been keeping him alive for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, which is why he looks that decrepit. And it's only kind of a semblance of life, and the device needs energy, and it's basically sucking it out of his victims. So, as the engineer says, also kind of a vampire.
Which I actually was... I kind of raised an eyebrow at that because not every, but a lot of, at least more recent versions of the Mummy do involve them doing that sort of life drain thing to keep from falling to dust. I don't think that's part of any original mythology, but I seem to see it at least from time to time, so it's not unheard of for mythological mummies.
Yeah, but it's not traditional as far as I'm aware.
It's not traditional, no. Even the original mummy actually didn't need to take any victims. He was actually just seeking the reincarnation of his long-lost love.
Yeah,
And when he got turned down, he decayed again.
You're thinking of the original, like, Universal Studios mummy when you say that, right, Matt?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, the original mummies were supposed to be guardians set to protect the pharaoh in his tomb. Of course, the pharaoh was a mummy as well, but I mean the reanimated mummies in folklore were supposed to be tomb guardians that would come to life if the tomb was defiled and seek down those that defiled the tomb and kill them.
Let's see.
Something along those lines, yes. For some of that.
So there was nothing really on energy sucking there. It was just killing them.
Yeah. Just seeking revenge, which also this mummy was kind of technically doing.
It was it was still fighting a war that had been over for eons.
Yeah, so he was seeking revenge, and when they submitted to him, he finally went, good, done.
I'm a little
I
confused
surrender.
by that. What kind of being in a war goes straight for the injured, but also relents when they surrender? That seems strange behavior for a soldier. I feel like they would either go after the healthy people or
Well,
ignore the surrender.
again, the device inside of it was going haywire, so maybe it also messed with his mind and came up with a protocol order of what he should do instead of actually running on his own natural instinct.
Yeah, the device needed energy, and so he had kind of gone from soldier in a way to a predator because he had to continue to fight his war. So, if you know, Call of the Wild is you gun down the sick and the elderly.
And the easy targets.
Yes.
And then work your way up the food chain.
I'm kind of rectifying in my mind because the surrender wasn't so much as leave this target alone. They surrendered. It was the war is over. Now I don't need any more targets.
The war is over.
Yeah.
We surrender. You no longer need to fight the war. So you can stand down, soldier, and he did when he fell to dust. That was the device going, war's over, enemy has surrendered, turn off.
Which I've got to say also seems really strange because if I were a general leading an army and I surrendered and all of a sudden the occupying army that was causing me to surrender vanished, I would think twice about my surrender.
Well, that's the case for this particular guy because, again, he's been tortured with this thing inside of him for how long?
And the device itself was not considering the fact that it was alone. The device itself was not intelligent, therefore it was not exceedingly tactically brilliant.
Yeah, it was just acting on whatever programming it was given at the time. They probably were planning to upgrade it once the war was over and couldn't get their hands on it again.
Right. Basically, it was a leftover because maybe in this war both sides annihilated each other, so there was no one to turn off the device.
Or
he was maybe like a prototype.
Yeah, it could be. Or, yeah, maybe he just kind of fell out of phase and then, like, he was struggling to stay back into phase.
It's secretly thousands of years in the future after the Centaurans and their enemy annihilated one another. But then the Doctor would have recognized the writing, so that kind of destroys that theory.
With a twist.
Yeah, that was one thing that does bug me as little as I'm surprised the Doctor did not recognize the writing as he's supposed to recognize all the writing in the universe.
Or if he doesn't, the TARDIS does.
Well,
Yeah,
it took him a while, but he did figure it out eventually.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, he didn't recognize it at
Oh,
once.
wait. Because Gus neutralized the effect of the TARDIS.
Yeah,
So
that's
he
right.
might have
Maybe that's
broken,
it.
Maybe.
He might have broken the telepathic
Maybe.
link.
Speaking of Gus, I hate Gus.
Oh.
I
is
think
such a
we have
strong
just
word.
found the biggest douche in Doctor Who villainy right here.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
He seems like
Because
your
Gus-
typical amoral ship commanding robot.
Did you listen to the list that Clara read of previous experiments to discover
Mm-hmm.
I didn't
what
hear
the
that
Forlorn
part,
is
no.
about? This guy has killed whole ships worth of people trying to do this. This was at least like the 6th or 7th attempt.
One of them
I
lasted for
remember them
3
mentioning
days.
that part.
And it was all just to figure out the phase lock on this soldier?
Not necessarily. What Gus wanted, or I should say the person behind Gus, was he wanted the ancient tech.
Mm.
He wanted that ability to phase and being able to drain the energy from his victims. He basically wanted to make a super soldier with those powers. Not realizing, of course, that the actual experiment was a super soldier gone wrong.
To which I gotta wonder what is behind Gus.
Yeah, we don't know
Yeah.
yet. I'm
I
hoping
know
we
I've
find
I've
out.
heard theories that he's going to return later in the season, which would honestly make me feel a little better about this episode because
Yeah.
ultimately it left me kind of and then they gave up and he's still out there.
Well, the doctor only gave up because there are no further clues.
He'll have to
He
wait till the
has
next time he bumps into
nobody
Gus.
he can contact to go, hey, who was this controlling this Orient Express? He was hoping to pull that information out of Gus, but Gus self-destructed and took the train with it,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
leaving the doctor sitting there going, well, fuck.
Well, bugger.
His only hope at this point is to wait until the controllers behind Gus rear their head again and hope he can track them down this point.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
pretty much, I think.
I just came up with a counter to my counter. And
Yeah.
I was going to mention that this would be something that you'd see, say, during the Matt Smith era or whatever, where the Doctor would go on a massive manhunt and not stop until he reached a certain goal, whether it was a piece of information or what. But then my counter to that is that he usually disappeared for like 200 years at a clip when he did that too.
Yep.
So probably not the best idea.
Whereas, also, Matt Smith's doctor was impatient.
Very impatient.
Mm-hmm.
This, you get more of the feeling that Capaldi's doctor is more of the,
I'll play the long
know.
game.
well played, clerk. I'm going to sit and wait for your next move and pounce on you then.
Mm.
He thinks long term, where Matt Smith was always now. Got to do it now. Of course,
Magically
then
so.
again, you're looking at a Time Lord now who has an entire
Smith
span
knew
of
he was going to
regenerations in
die.
front of him, and Matt thinking,
I'm the
when I'm
last.
dead now, it's the end. You know?
Yeah, I'm the last. It's the end. I gotta do this quickly.
Yeah.
No time.
And looking back on Matt Smith's life, you can kind of see that is the thing, that he is a man who's left too many pots boiling
And suddenly realizes he
that
needs to get
dinner
them
is
all
now
covered.
in 30 seconds,
Yeah. He suddenly realizes he needs to get all the pots off the burners and get things running here.
Sure,
Yeah.
So
whereas,
it's
whereas
almost-
Capaldi's like,
Beautiful.
well, if they kill me 11 more
Intrigue.
times, I can just find Gallifrey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his Capaldi has all the time in the universe now, at least another 2,000 years to do this kind of stuff.
And again, if he thinks it's going to take longer than that, he can just find Gallifrey and report it to the new president.
Mm-hmm. So,
Because if it is big enough for that, the Time Lords sometimes get involved.
although I will admit this, not on the episode but on the season, I am really surprised Gallifrey hasn't come up more.
Yeah.
True.
Hmm.
The closest it did to coming up was that scene when he was talking the astronaut out of shooting him by just implying that he might regenerate forever, which was clearly a bluff to us, but she didn't know that.
Regeneration. I mean,
Huh?
with Day of the Doctor and Time of the Doctor, we all went into this season thinking that the overall arcing theme of this season was going to be the beginning of the Hunt
Yeah.
for Gallifrey.
And there were even posters and such about that.
And we've seen absolutely none of it. The Doctor doesn't even seem to be interested in looking for Gallifrey.
Again, he's kind of playing the long game.
Although all of the robots seem to be looking for something, so I'm kind of
Yeah.
wondering if that's remotely related or not.
Possibly
We don't
as well.
know.
It wouldn't seem related, but Moffat does sometimes connect strange things together.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just thinking though that that seems to be a little bit of a disappointment in my book.
Yeah.
That we had seen all this Gallifrey coming up, and they had seemed to hint that the next season was going to be them looking for it.
Yeah.
There hasn't been any looking, because instead we've basically got the Clara and Danny story, which has about the appeal as the Rose and
Yeah,
Mickey
it's
story.
definitely less interesting than A Search for Gallifrey.
Their
It's
romance
even less
story.
interesting than the Ponds.
Yes.
Ponds at least had a little bit of drama and relationship building.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, they had drama in between Pond Life and Asylum of the Daleks.
Yeah.
But even so, I miss Amy and Rory because they were more interesting as characters
Yes.
than Danny and Clara.
As characters, as a couple, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Danny and Claire, as far as I'm concerned, they're about as interesting as golf.
And that's sad because we haven't had an interracial relationship on the show in a while.
In a very
It's
long
still,
while.
it's kind of like, if she's doing this, I'm
Well,
done.
does
I'm moving
Human
on,
Time
and
Lord
Danny's going
count?
to move on. I'm just like, okay, fucking move on. Let us give
That's-
somebody that cares.
Yeah, that's actually kind of an interesting point I brought up with Ran. Is anyone else getting kind of the feeling that maybe the Doctor has fallen in love with Clara? And maybe his whole antagonism towards Danny Pink is that he's jealous of him?
Maybe?
I
in a
don't
romantic
really
way?
think so. I think
would-
it's honestly the overprotective friend thing. Because
I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong,
that.
Bill. I think you're wrong. I think Aaron has it on the nose. And
I would
let me
think
tell
better
you
of
what.
the Doctor, but
Okay.
At the end of Deep Breath,
yeah.
the Doctor says, you need to get something clear. I'm not your boyfriend. Clara's like, yeah, I know that. And he says, I don't think it was you that was making the mistake. Meaning that either later Matt Smith, whatever, was kind of that semi-assumption. Later on in Time Heist, after everything's over, if you remember, she was kind of he had kind of pushed her into it when she was about to go on a date with Danny. After that was done, his response was, robbing a whole bank, beat that. So he is seeing himself in competition with Clara's boyfriend, now seen as Danny Pink.
Yep.
I don't know if his feelings for her are overly romantic, but there's definitely competition going on there.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think we'll just have to wait and see.
You have to wait and see how it unfolds and
Of
if he
course.
finally opens up or not about it.
It raises my eyebrow on that, because technically with River Song, isn't the Doctor technically already married?
Polygamist.
Well, he already
Or
also
maybe
had a
he's
granddaughter, so he's
polyamorous.
already been technically married
Yeah.
twice.
Maybe he's polyamorous. It could happen.
I do know that one line of reading on the whole I'm like on New Who in general, specifically it was specifically looking at the Moffat episodes in the Davies era as well as School Reunion, was that the Doctor is not a monogamous person in general, just is, I forget what the wording was, but essentially feels beyond that sort of thing.
Well, there
That
is
was
some
that
of
was
that.
one reading of it anyway.
Well, the Doctor in School Reunion was talking about his pain, how, a companion could spend the rest of their life with the Doctor, but the Doctor can't spend the rest of his life with them. But that was comparing lifespans. The Doctor lives, we don't know how long a Time Lord would live under normal circumstances. Normal circumstances would mean without getting themselves killed every few years.
Without
One of the doctors,
regeneration,
Because-
without
I think
TARDIS
it
to
might have been
help
the
them.
second, described it as forever barring accidents.
Yeah, because you look at Matt Smith. I don't think it's quite forever. I think that was a bit of an exaggeration because Matt Smith's doctor essentially died of old age.
But he died of
After-
old age after how many hundreds of years?
True, but notice each time that he died of old age was right after a big fight or in the middle of a big fight.
That's drama. That's drama. But what I mean is he was dying because his body failed, not because somebody physically killed him. And he lived in that form 1,100 years.
True, but
So
Time Lords on Gallifrey seem to avoid that sort of drama, so there'd be less stress on the heart. So dying of old age
what
might
I'm
take
saying,
much,
though,
much
is
longer.
that we know at the very least a Time Lord can live 1,100 years in one form. You multiply that by 13 bodies. That's 14 and a half thousand years minimum as an so you compare that to a human lifespan of, well, we consider 80 to be a good run. So, a person living day by day, side by side with a Time Lord like the Doctor, it's literally like you blink and they're old. It's kind of, well, comparing it to Moffat's earlier fairy tale theme, it is kind of Peter Pan syndrome. If you remember, any of you remember the movie Hook?
Oh yeah.
Where they describe what happened, where Peter would keep coming back for Wendy, and she'd be older and older every time until she was too old to go with Peter. That's kind of what happens between the Doctor and his companions. So it makes having a relationship with a normal human to be very difficult because you're just getting used to them and they're dead.
Yeah, to him, it'll be just barely getting to really know you, and then gone.
So it's very hard to, Romana was another matter because that was another Time Lord capable of living just as long. So the Doctor and Romana could have time to get used to each other and, get to that stage. Whereas with a human, the Doctor's just getting past the first few dates level with somebody when they leave.
Pretty much.
And that's kind of sad.
Unless he can train himself to alter his perception of time.
It's not just the perception of time, it's the sheer length you live versus. And again, I think the Doctor has considered, that kind of stuff to be kind of cradle robby on occasion too. I'm 900 years old and you're 19, I believe was something that Eccleston once said to Rose Tyler. Or Rose said, one hell of an age difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I really liked about this episode was the mystery air to it. And we got to see the Doctor being active again, actively hunting down the mystery instead of being passive about it. And also the fact that the Doctor actually solves the mystery.
Although, in order to have that happen, they had to have the companion be entirely passive about the mystery.
For most of it.
Well, Clara
really didn't care about the mystery or have anything to do with it.
And I'm pretty sure that was Stephen Moffat's doing, because a good chunk of that passive time was for Clara and the one lady to kind of try to psychoanalyze each other and sort out their issues. Because it was really the conversations with her, plus what the Doctor said at the end of the episode, that really made Clara do the 180 from I'm leaving to I'm staying. And I believe this is kind of the episode that kind of revealed that the Doctor isn't this insensitive asshole he makes himself out to be.
He only does it because it's the only way he can try and get through some difficult portions of
Yeah.
time.
It's how he handles it. Whereas you would see Tennant's doctor, Smith's doctor, doing the moral outrageous bit. We'd see the Eighth Doctor going into his sarcastic mode. This one handles it also with sarcasm, but with basically a covering of callousness.
Which is not unlike the first Doctor, to be honest.
He's kind of like a blend of first, fourth, and sixth.
The first Doctor, I think, was not yet developed, and he is not developed enough he wasn't holding it back so much as he wasn't caring about these human creatures as much.
Mm-hmm. And if you look, I mean, a lot of his mannerisms, he's very Fourth Doctor in a lot of the things that the 12th Doctor does. And they kind of also try to show that because he pulled out what looked to be a cigar case, and it turned out to be a case of jelly babies.
Yes, they've showed zoomed up pictures of that actually lately.
Yeah, I know. Bill posted on Facebook. I still agree with my statement. It was nice to see the jelly babies again, but I do miss the white bulk candy bag and the statement, care for a jelly baby. Because that was sad.
Actually, I don't see the 12th Doctor saying care for a jelly baby. I do see the don't move or I'll kill him with this deadly jelly baby.
I could, yes.
I can see that.
Yeah, well, the 11th Doctor was fond of doing that kind of thing with jammy Dodgers.
Although I could also see the 12th Doctor calling his companion a ham-fisted bun vendor. So.
But in further responding to Aaron's statement about the Doctor possibly having kind of crushing on Clara a bit, I also stated that might also be why he's always putting her down. Is it's essentially like I think I actually mentioned this a few podcasts ago, Sao Tome syndrome.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Picking on the girl because he actually has a crush on her, but that could also just
just backfired and just him being an a-hole.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but I'm still thinking.
So that would be, going back to my third Doctor reference. That would be kind of the Doctor and Joe still, because he kind of pulled the same thing, but you could kind of tell how he took it when she went and married someone that she described as a human version of him.
Whereas the Doctor, when thought that she was dating the guy that looked like the 11th back in a couple episodes ago, he seemed all fine with that.
Oh yeah, because that would mean that she was dating a version of him.
Yeah. But
not somebody completely different.
You know what's weird? That guy, I actually thought he reminded me of Sylvester McCoy more than Matt Smith.
Who? Oh, that one, yeah.
The guy who the Doctor thought Claire was dating.
His looks looked more Matt Smith.
Yeah, he was dressed like Smith at least.
He was dressed like Smith, and he had that chin like Matt Smith did.
Yeah, the chin, and they also made sure to give him one of his hairstyles a little bit.
Although a little more curly.
A little.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about the Mummy. We talked about that. The other characters.
Oh, I love the engineer guy.
Oh, the engineer guy was good. Aaron made a comment that it kind of seems like the Doctor is basically one of the side themes of the series is the Doctor basically holding auditions for the next companion.
Yeah.
Because it seems like almost every episode there's somebody the Doctor runs into that has the companion potential.
Yeah, almost this season, yeah.
Well, that's right, yeah, that's right. I remember thinking of when he tried to get the companion to stick around and...
Might I also add in a little bit of my feelings here? Because
Yeah.
I have to say that this seems like really, really oddly serendipitous that I see this episode this week, and earlier this week, at the same time, I am asked to help with a review of the Hammer movie Horror Express. Both of them
Oh,
take place on a
this one.
train. Both of them have horror elements. And actually, even with the engineer here, we technically have the Christopher Lee and Pierre Cushing coupling, practically.
Who's Lee and who's Cushing?
Uh, that's a very good question.
I
I think the
I
Doctor would
thought
be
I might
more
catch on
Cushing.
that.
Oh God, now I'm picturing Peter Capaldi as Dracula.
He wouldn't be bad.
Picture it.
He wouldn't be bad, no. He'd be better than the current guy that just got a Dracula
Wouldn't
movie.
be bad as Van Helsing either.
Oh yeah, he wouldn't be bad as Van Helsing, no. Actually, he'd be a really awesome Van Helsing, I think.
Yeah.
Or Dr. Frankenstein. He would be a
Oh,
Frankenstein.
especially if they go with the Hammer version of Dr. Frankenstein. The kind of asshole who would push a person off a balcony ledge just so he could kill them and use them in his experiments.
I'm
Would make
pretty
good
sure the Universal
good Dr.
Frankenstein was equally asshole-licious.
No, not so much. He was a little demented in the first movie, but the second movie he kind of regretted his actions and didn't want anything to do with it until he was kind of blackmailed into it.
Yeah, but by the third or fourth, he was pretty off
By the third and
wall.
fourth, he wasn't even involved anymore. It was his grandchildren and stuff.
That wasn't him that was like transplanting his brain into other people and shit?
No.
Tangent.
Yeah, but we were still covering something really quickly.
Talking about mummies.
Anyway,
But
Are you my
it
mommy?
seems and again it has the really similar vibe, and to be honest, both of them are, in my opinion, are pretty darn good.
well, you can make that statement when the final thoughts come up.
But yeah, it's just it
characters-
seems just the odd kind of timing that I had that movie and this pop up at the same time.
Yeah. So yeah, I like the conductor, and there was a decent amount of chemistry between Capaldi and the conductor character,
You mean the engineer?
or yeah, the engineer.
The conductor was kind of an a-hole and almost had Capaldi arrested.
Yeah, but then after the third death, he turned around. He was kind of brigadier-y.
Yeah, he was kind of brigadier-ish.
Speaking of the conductor, how did you guys feel about that scene where he's like, I'm your worst enemy, psychic paper. You're a secret shopper? The Doctor's like, I'm a
That-
what?
Yeah, that kind of threw me back because that was kind of a Matt Smithy thing.
Kind of, a little bit, yeah.
And no, I think Matt Smith would have reveled in being a secret shopper, whereas
Yes, would
this
have.
Doctor was just like, I'm a what?
Yeah.
What now?
You
He
could
was
see
not
he.
prepared for
You
that.
could almost see that the line that was given to him was a Matt Smithy line, but he did it with more of eye-rolling sarcasm than Matt Smith's eager glee would have given him.
Which again shows that Capaldi has an idea of what he is at least trying to do with this Doctor, and to probably turn down Moffat's ideas, which we've heard that they have had arguments as to how the Doctor should be acting.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain they have, and I'm thinking that it's probably going to end with Moffat leaving.
I can only hope.
Yay!
Only hope. That way the Doctor can start acting more like the Doctor.
It's kind of like Tom Baker versus JNT, but I'm pretty sure that the Doctor wins this time.
Fight!
Anyway, I don't think the character of the girl, the old lady's granddaughter, was overly well done.
No, well, to be honest, the character is also in shock for all this time, too.
Yeah, that didn't help.
That really didn't help any kind of development with her, to be honest, because the only development they really had was trying to help her get out of shock, while also
Although I
taking
do-
her shock and using
when-
it to help the Doctor find the mummy.
Although I do like when they when the Doctor takes her trauma onto himself to
Oh.
track the mummy, he does mention the fact that she was right and the old lady had had killed her parents.
Yeah.
So she was perfectly justified in hating the old lady.
Oh yeah. In more than a
She was
couple of ways.
apparently an evil shrew.
Yeah.
Then you wonder why she's so passive about the old lady seeing a mummy and starting to freak out at first, at least.
Yep. Still, you're looking at her, and they didn't do much with the character because, like Clara, she got trapped in that one room for like 50% of the episode.
Which is also another problem that
Yeah.
J&T had, was trapping companions somewhere and getting them out of the way for a while.
Yeah, and this does this.
Yeah, but at least Clara wasn't married off to the girl with shock.
And I will say this, even if they had to take Clara out of the way so the Doctor could take center stage, at least the Doctor did take center stage.
Yes.
If you remember correctly, what I've been bitching about during the Moffat era a lot is the Doctor either being the direct cause of the problem or kind of showing up and not doing anything, and the companions are the ones that do all the work.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they had to deliberately sideline the companion so the Doctor could do it, the Doctor still did it. He solved it.
I just realized something. Next episode we've been speculating might be Dr. Light. I'm kind of thinking this one might have been filmed as Companion Light.
Technically, yes.
They filmed Clara
Yeah.
in a few scenes in one room, a few scenes in the other room, and then might have sent her off to film Flatline while Capaldi was working on this episode.
This and bounced over to the few scenes of Flatline that he was doing.
Right.
So these two might have been deliberately light on the other just for scheduling reasons if they were filming back to back.
Mm-hmm. Which
Like
is very
they had
likely.
the train set up in one studio and the TARDIS set and whatever else they need for Flatline in the studio next to it. And we're filming simultaneously. A bit of a pain in the ass for the actors, let me tell you.
No, but yeah, that's pretty. I mean, they've come out and said quite a few times over the past 7 or so years that they pretty much have to for scheduling purposes and to get the whole season shot on time. So I kind of expect that's what happened. Why Clara was so sparse in this episode. Now that I think about it.
Okay, so that makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, because that was really kind of bugging me. I'm like, wait a second, why is Clara locked away?
Yeah,
in her
it was bugging me too because you have a mystery episode. I'd love to see someone like Clara really get her teeth into it.
At the same time, you had the engineer pulling the Watson to the Dr. Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do Doctor Who doing Sherlock Holmes, this is the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Where, it's a sci-fi theme in space with a classic mystery that needs solving.
Mm-hmm.
It does not have to be in 19th century Victorian England. You don't need to have Sherlock Holmesy characters.
So was the conductor the chief of police? What's his name?
Or with the engineer. Yes. The conductor kind of was the chief of police or the head of Scotland Yard or, He was the police detective. The doctor was Sherlock Holmes. The engineer was Watson. And everyone else was either victims or bystanders. And the mummy, of course, was the murderer.
Yes, the mummy was the hound of the
Baker Street
Baskervilles.
Irregulars.
Anyone else here catch the Red Dwarf reference in this episode?
I did, yes. I think we referenced it last week already, didn't we?
What are you
remember.
thinking, Matt?
Hard light?
Yep.
Hard light.
The fact
Oh,
that
yes.
half the people, half the passengers disappear after then goes there, and the doctor and he goes teleporter, and he goes no, hard light holograms. And yes, hard light holograms
That's right.
are a
Okay.
deliberate Red Dwarf reference.
Yes, you're right.
The only thing they were missing were the little H's on their heads.
Wait, so then can we expect a Red Dwarf crossover?
Probably not.
Probably not, but I would
not.
love
That's
it.
that was pretty much, yeah, that was pretty much along the same lines as what was the lines? Save the world in my jammies. Very Arthur Dent. Was that what it was?
Yeah,
That the line?
Yeah.
it's just a throw out to another episode, and show me some Spock being a Star Trek shout out.
They did a
Although,
whole Moffat episode that was Spock references.
mhm. Although you do know that if Enterprise had stayed on longer, RTD and one of the head writers or one of the heads of the Enterprise staff were talking about a Doctor Who Enterprise crossover at the time.
Would have loved that, but nah, not meant to be.
Would have been awesome.
I don't know Enterprise well enough to know how I would have felt.
Well, part of the side story, and to be honest, I hated this side story in Enterprise. But if they had explained it using a Doctor Who
Wait, there was
term,
a time war in
I
Enterprise,
loved
wasn't
it.
there?
There was a temporal Cold War going on during Enterprise. So there was a time war going on at that point. Would have been actually kind of awesome as a side tie-in, wouldn't it?
I'm thinking the Doctor comes in as an unexplained character that nobody knows where he came from or where he goes to. Who doesn't identify himself. Solves a problem and leaves.
The Doctor not identify himself as the Doctor? Of course, I always, back when
Okay,
Voyager
fine.
was on,
He would
I always
identify
wanted to have-
himself as Admiral John Smith.
When Voyager was on the air, I always wanted to have the episode where the TARDIS materializes in the sick bay, and you have the almost the who's on first moment, the Doctor and the EMH arguing over which one of them is the Doctor. But that was just my brain. Anyway, so sets, well done, yes. Characters, well done.
Some interesting in references.
Okay, speaking
Although,
of characters,
This was
I do
actually
have to
meant to be
mention one
more of
thing,
an
though.
Agatha Christie reference than a Sherlock Holmes,
Yeah.
by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was kind of like Poirot or something like that, along those lines. But if you think about it, the main characters between Agatha Christie and Sherlock Holmes are kind of the same. You've got Poirot being the Holmes, and Inspector Shapp is essentially the guy from Scotland Yard in Holmes. And I'm trying to remember who Poirot's assistant is. But that's
Hastings.
essentially the Watson.
What was that, Tim?
Inspector Poirot's assistant is named Hastings.
Hastings, thank you.
There's a reason why so many Doctor actors went on to do Agatha Christie movies.
Or Sherlock Holmes movies.
Speaking of the characters, though, I have to mention the one thing that we stood out as not liking in Into the Dalek is repeated here, and I didn't like it much more here, and I actually think they could have done it a different way to make it work a little better.
And that is?
That is, if he had even said, "I think I can help her, but I need her to get here before I can," would have still been better than the lie to her, tell her I can save her.
He explains that.
He does explain it, but it would have been nice if he would have explained it sooner instead of coming off as complete until ass.
The reason we didn't like it in the first place with the whole abusing the trust me I'm the doctor thing is still it's kind of explained to Clara later, but at the same time it's still, to me, erodes the integrity of the character a little bit to me.
It didn't to me. I mean, yes, it was bothering me until he explained it.
And like I said, if it even said it was because he thought he could save her, because it was still part of the experiment. So hiding it from Gus is only, other than the, I can hide this from you and such type of deal. I mean, it was still for the sake of the experiment, but
from the argument I got on the list was the fact that Gus was listening on the call when he talked to her. And therefore, if he had mentioned the fact that, yes, I'm going to do this, he would not have allowed them to leave the hold. Because remember, they were sealed in the hold, so doing this was probably some kind of compromise with Gus to get them into the main room.
Mm-hmm.
which is why Gus probably threw the force field around the TARDIS, too. So if Gus had learned that the Doctor was planning on transferring it from her to himself to make him the victim, Gus would have basically said, nope, we'll just let them kill her and wait till the next one. And obviously, because Gus is a colossal douche, because, of course, the second he solves it, Gus is immediately like, well, yeah, that's fine. We're not ready for any survivors, so kill you all. Silence! Kill you!
Please assume the party position.
Yes. Please assume the death position. So, for me, the fact that he had a plan to save her, just could not reveal it at that time, didn't bug me. It was a little bit earlier bugging me that he was still like, yes, there's nothing I could do for you, but please tell me everything anyway, since you're going to die regardless.
That also rubbed him the wrong way.
At the end of it, he's talking about how there are no good decisions. Sometimes you're stuck between bad decision and another, and you realize he is hurting on it on the inside. He's just not showing it because it's not within his persona to show it.
And even in that particular scene where he's like, tell us everything because you're going to die anyway, I still at least saw it, even though he didn't use the words as, what you're experiencing now is going to might save the next person's life, so tell us your experience type of deal.
You're saying that would have been better wording on it?
Well, I'm just saying, I'm saying it as in, that's... What I heard was not the words he said. What I heard was that being what he means, in terms of that was
him lying to Clara to bring them into the main room that bothered you.
Yes, because he was specifically saying lie to her, tell her I'll save her. When his whole thing as a character is built up on when he says he'll save someone, he'll do his damn best and either fail spectacularly trying to, or will do so. Whereas here was straight out said lie to her.
And we're on exact opposite fences on that one, Bill, because he did save her. So, and like I said, he was being pressured by Gus at that point. So he could not reveal an iota of his plan over the phone, and there really was no time afterwards until the big explanation on the beach.
Still, it's kind of...
It didn't bother me at all. Once the explanation hit, I felt fine on it. What was that ding?
I was wondering that myself. I was wondering if it came from my computer until you asked.
Not me.
Not me.
Anyway, it's good timing because I think it's probably about good time that we go to final thoughts.
We're 93 minutes into the podcast.
We started that late?
We started
10 minutes
10
late.
Okay, I thought we started 5 after.
No, 10 minutes after.
Okay, so we got another 5 minutes. Still wonder what that ding was.
That was
Although,
somebody.
since we're pausing and it's semi-close to final thoughts, I just happened to see this bit of news while we were talking. Apparently, there is going to be a... possibly inspired by the success of the show, but possibly not. There's going to be a Flash movie in 2018. However, it is not going to feature any of the actors from the show. And the star playing, I'm assuming Barry Allen, possibly Wally. The article doesn't say. No, it does say Barry Allen. Is Ezra Miller. Anyone familiar with that actor? Here's the link if you want to show it.
I'm pretty sure that is not why... I'm pretty sure it's not based on the success of the series.
It's really early for them to be saying anything based on the success of the series, so I kind of doubt it. But...
Remember that DC has been trying like mad. Well, DC / Warner Brothers has been trying like mad to get stars to do a Justice League of America movie. And their problem is, of course, that they're having problems finding big-name stars.
I don't think it's so much the problem trying to find stars. It's the fact that they're having a problem trying to come up with decent stories seems to be what's killing them the most.
What I mean by stars, I mean actors with charisma to carry it. Because let's face it, the new Superman doesn't have the charisma to
That's
Yes.
why they need to cast Kevin Conroy as Batman.
He's too old now. If they'd cast Kevin Conroy as Batman in like 1995, that would have been fine. But now I've actually seen him, and I don't think he could do it now.
I want Keaton back to be the Dark Knight Returns.
I think he's too old now too.
Not for Dark Knight Returns.
Uh,
Then he could be, damn it, what's his name?
hell, cast Conroy to do it for Dark Knight Returns. But no, if
Why,
you're leading up,
why am I forgetting Bruce's father's name?
Thomas Wayne?
Thomas Wayne, there we go. Conroy is Thomas Wayne.
since we have a couple minutes here before final thoughts, there's another non-related thing I want to get off my chest. I've seen a lot of people online bitching about the series
Cap-free.
Gotham and how the character Alfred is portrayed in it.
I kind of like it when you consider that he's 20 years younger than we've ever seen Alfred before.
You know, it's mostly the fact that he's also speaking low English. And I'd like to remind these people that the Nolan films, that Alfred spoke the same way. And if you're watching this and you have the same opinion on Gotham, anybody who is paying attention to this podcast should STFO about the character of Alfred because it's freaking Sean Pertwee. It's John Pertwee's son.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and well, no. Do you have anything else to say about that before I go on to something else?
He's very English. Anyway.
No, that was it.
Okay. Another thing that this actually linked to that reminded me, we haven't talked at all about. Well, actually, yeah, I think this is actual news. I don't think it's rumors that Captain America 3 will be featuring Robert Downey Jr. and will have ties to the Marvel Civil War. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as the comics, but it will be in some way related to it. This has been a huge point of contention on the internet, and my point of view is generally the MCU hasn't seriously let us down so far. Let's wait till we see it before bitching about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I hadn't heard the Civil War bit. I had heard that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be in Captain America 3.
I've been hearing the rumors of Civil War for about a week now.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I've heard enough of the rumors about it that I didn't click the links where they claimed it was confirmed. So I don't know what the primary source is. Supposedly there is a primary source. It will be about Civil War, and people are complaining about there's no superheroes with secret identities yet. But I should point out there's at least a few more movies and at least, 3 more TV shows to introduce characters such as Daredevil, who's definitely getting a show,
More like
among
4
other things.
or 5, Bill.
4 or 5 TV shows?
Yes. Although I do think one of them is
count them.
Agent Carter, which is, basically in the past.
Right.
But I know the stuff coming to Netflix next year are 4 different series with 4.
Are they all characters with secret identities, though? I don't know
sure.
them off the top of my head.
I'm not sure. I know at least 3 of them. One of them is Daredevil. One of them is Power Man, Luke Cage.
Which he's kind of public about himself.
So we can get a new Avengers movie if the rumors about Spider-Man come true.
It's possible. That does seem to be what they're leading up to, but I don't know what their mindset is. But the MCU hasn't failed me yet. Even when I thought Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was going to be meh, it got better.
Honestly, in my opinion, the worst thing they've given us was Thor, and I was able to see past it enough to enjoy the movies after it, so...
I was a little nervous about Winter Soldier, and then I saw it, and I was like, wow, this actually works pretty well.
Yeah.
Anywho, way off Doctor Who.
Now that was part of our news, but yeah, it's time to
we were just filling space to final thoughts because I think we're done talking about the episode. And I think
now we're at 99 minutes in. We've got 20 total minutes left in the podcast. Do we have anything before we go on to final thoughts?
Let me think quick. Talked about the Mummy. Talked about the sets. Visual effects, Train in Space.
The train in space was really good. Also, the one effect of the mummy reaching through the doctor was really good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Train in Space was very Leiji Matsumoto.
Very.
I can't believe that those people did that without actually having ever seen Galaxy Express or Galaxy Railways.
Do
Or
we know
any-
that for sure that they haven't seen it?
Just to let people know who may not be familiar with Japanese animation, Leiji Matsumoto is a classic Japanese animation artist, manga writer, director, dating way back to the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
He has written many Japanese classics or was involved with, including Space Battleship Yamato, Captain Harlock, and the aforementioned Galaxy Express. He's known for putting weird objects into space.
And those three franchises in particular are all the same universe, if I'm not mistaken.
Captain Harlock and Galaxy Express is, as well as Queen Emeraldus. Yamato is a little iffy.
Yamato has had Harlock pop up a couple
people he was
times.
working with said no on it. The Yamato has appeared in some of those works, but only as kind of a cameo, just a shout-out appearance.
Oh, the same with Captain Harlock and some of the Yamato stuff too.
Oh,
So
there's
they are
actually
vague, but they are definitely knocked about enough together that they must be same universe at some point.
Well, regardless, one of the things he's known for, one of his biggest hits, was the series Galaxy Express 39, which does involve a steam locomotive that travels from planet to planet to planet in very much the same style as we see in this episode.
Also, the movie franchise based around that has also done pretty well for itself. I think they've had somewhere around 6 movies.
Somewhat to that extent, and then the series Galaxy Railways, which only came out a few years ago, was based on that same concept, was that the Galaxy Express was part of a whole network of trains.
Mm-hmm. Well, they hinted at that actually at the end of the series.
But regardless, that means that for the last 20 years or so, 25, Matsumoto's been making anime with trains flying through space. So he's had a lot of experience with this, and the way the train moved and curved as it was traveling was very reminiscent of very similar scenes in Galaxy Express and Galaxy Railways.
Matter of fact, I think we pretty accurately showed that in our opener for this week too.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to cover it verbally.
Mm-hmm.
And tell people who they were. So I'm pretty sure they were inspired by. If they weren't, it's an amazing
Coincidence?
look-alike coincidence. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the visual effect of the mummy going to the doctor too was suitably creepy too.
Yeah.
As was the holographic switch from the dining car to the lab.
Mm-hmm.
And the people disappearing, but that's a standard effect for them.
Yeah. It's a standard given effect that they should be able to easily do by now.
But yeah, I liked a lot of it. To be honest, I very well felt like this train could have existed within the Matsumoto verse as well. I was very suitably impressed by. I've bitched about whoever they've replaced the mill with. I didn't see any issues with the visual effects in this one.
So yeah, whoever did the effects for this episode in particular, you're hired. You're doing a lot better than what they've done for most of the last couple seasons.
Speaking of visual effects, though, I have seen some jokes that Clara's hair apparently gets longer and shorter depending on what she's wearing.
Probably because they were filmed out of order.
From the order, also the different hairstyles could make it
different
happen to look that way.
hairstylist, and we've of course have noted that time has passed between each episode.
Yes.
Sometimes as much as months. So some
If
of
not-
it's been a couple months. She's let her hair grow. Other times she's taken her hair in for a trim. So they could be doing that to simulate time passing.
Heck, for
Well,
all
it
we know,
depends.
there's
Whether
been
it's
5,
Herself
6 months.
said she was pissed at the doctor for weeks before that. Oh, and let's cover that quickly. What do you think of Clara's 180?
I have to say the 180 at the
Um,
very end kind of came out of nowhere.
I'm kind of. It kind of really depends on how they how they continue it, it's not a good or bad thing yet. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of see it right now as a different take on the first 15 minutes of Journey's End, where Rose is talking about how impossible it is to go back to living an ordinary life after having traveled with the Doctor, and this is kind of the same concept taken from a different direction. And it really depends on what the next few episodes do about it, regarding how I'm going to feel about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we really have to wait and feel this out yet, but it does
Um,
seem kind of sudden to me.
Now,
So we
some
started
people
10
have
minutes
described
late.
this.
We've got 15 minutes left now. So I think it's time
Yeah.
for final thoughts.
One thing, damn it, why is it always when I'm on a time crunch that I can't come up with the word that I need? I feel like Agent Fitz and Agents of Shield. Damn it.
Spoilers!
Of episode 1.
Aaron hasn't seen the first season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not in the first season.
She hasn't watched the second season until she sees the first.
Oh. Well, it still doesn't give away any plot details. Damn it, though. That does not solve the problem of me not remembering the word that I need.
I
Fuck.
can't tell you the word if you don't give us some details.
Fuck.
Yeah, we have no idea what you're talking about, and you've just swore on the podcast for no reason.
I always swear on the podcast for no reason. It's my
So does
thing.
everybody.
It's my thing. I say fuck for no reason.
Fuck,
We are
fuck, fuck.
quote unquote.
We're ready to start final thoughts, except Bill has Tourette's.
It's
Fuck shit,
from what I
yeah.
understand, this is what
Curse
Peter
words.
Capaldi is known for. People should be used to this, or his character in a previous show.
Say
previous
bugger
life.
here, Bucker.
Well, I'll admit this Doctor is slightly more foul-mouthed than the classic Doctor, but not to the point of Capaldi's other characters. That's for certain.
Yeah.
Um,
They gotta keep it
when someone falls in love with a hostage situation.
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm. Yeah.
Thank you. People have been comparing the end of this episode to Stockholm syndrome, and I really don't see it.
No,
I don't either.
No, that's not
I
Stockholm.
don't
Like
that.
I think. I mean, if you took
That's
took
crazy people
her-
talking.
Yeah, like if you took her relationship with the Doctor as starting an episode or two ago and going from there, you could kind of maybe see it, but I think that's really a stretch in this context. It's like
Yeah.
they've
Yeah,
been traveling together for years before they ever started to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it Stockholm syndrome does not make sense here. She hasn't been kidnapped. She's not being held prisoner. He took her on one last ride.
And he was
Didn't
going to bring her
go
back,
as
but she
planned.
decided she wanted to go for one more ride yet.
Mm-hmm.
At least.
Yep. So I'm not seeing it. So we're going to move on to final thoughts. I will then do it in the order of which you appear on my screen, starting with Tim.
Okay. This was one of my favorite episodes, along with Robot of Sherwood and Time Heist. So I'm gonna give this. My final thoughts was. I liked the set. I liked the intrigue. I liked the mummy. I thought Clara's 180 back was kind of surprising because up to that point, I thought it was like building up to like they're explaining why she's leaving, and then all of a sudden she's not leaving after all. So
Moffat's basically trolling us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's already signed on for the rest of the season. She can't leave now. They have to.
She
fill
signed up
they have
till
to
the
fulfill
special.
her contract.
Still, I'm betting at the end of the season, or it's still possible anyway, that the whole thing was a whole Moffat misdirection with him basically doing "fooled you."
yeah, so
People are so
that was the only thing that I found a bit off. You know, like her is like her it's not a 180, but it was a 360. 60 that did it.
Well, it was a 360 if you take the last two episodes.
Yeah.
180 this episode alone, because she started with the "I'm leaving after this," and then changed. But yeah, if you go back, it's 360.
Yep.
Anything else,
And
Tim?
and I
Go ahead.
agree that Gus is a douchebag. So
He is the
Should
most
be the
douchey
subtitle
AI
for
we've
this
had
episode.
yet for a
I feel
while.
like if you don't think that Gus is a douchebag, you might need to check yourself.
Before you wreck yourself? Okay. Anything else, Tim?
uh, I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Okay. Aaron.
I really kind of like this. It was I like the sets. I like the special effects. I thought were pretty good. And now it does now make sense for Clara to be sitting kind of off to the side. This is the companion episode, so yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was intense too, and it was a pretty good mystery. I really didn't see the ending coming at all. I had no idea what this thing was.
All right, is that it, Aaron?
Yep.
Matt?
Darn good mummy. I haven't seen a mummy like that in a long while. Again, I've seen other train sets this week, and it matches up pretty even. I think they did a pretty good job with it. Some of the best special effects I've seen in a while out of this show, to be quite honest. I haven't been this impressed with some of their effects work since almost the werewolf, actually. That was the last
Yeah.
time they had a really darn good effect like that.
Not counting things like Daleks and other staples.
Well, that's dogs aren't that hard to do. They're metal, plasticky things anyway. Action figures double as the man.
True.
Some interesting side characters like the engineer, which again gave me even more Horror Express feels. And also, yeah, Gus is an interesting character, which I kind of, despite he's one of those villains I like to hate, so I can't wait to see him kind of come back again, because it's obvious he'll come back. He should come back. That's about it.
Okay, Bill?
This is an episode where I think my final thoughts on this will not be final, and honestly, at the end of the season, I can see myself coming back to this episode and liking it more than I do. It's a beautiful looking episode, but I've always considered that to be the least important part of an episode. And there are a lot of things where I'm neutral in terms of being both having things I like and dislike about them. So I would still say this is probably above average episode, but I would not say that I like it quite as much as you guys do.
So you're going to be the whiny baby this particular week.
For now, but as I can kind of see if we turn around in a month and a half and talk about this episode again, I might completely have a different opinion based on how the rest of the season goes. This is an episode that I really think the follow-up is the most important part.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So we know who the wet blanket's going to be this week.
the follow-up
So-
might affect it, but I have some hopes that this is going to still be a good episode. All considered.
Okay, so my final thoughts. The sets were nice, the special effects were good, the writing I thought was concise and paced well. The acting, I had no problems with the acting, the characterization of anybody. I did initially have a problem with Clara being gone for a chunk of it, but with Bill's explaining for simul-filming with the next episode, it makes sense, and therefore I take it. I actually have nothing I actively dislike about this episode. It made sense, which is a rarity for a Moffat episode. A Moffat era episode, I should say.
Moffat era, yeah.
And yeah, I really, really liked this episode. I think I liked it better than Time Heist. So, we now go to our scores, starting with Tim.
Well, as I said, I really like this episode. It's one of my favorites, along with Time Heist, and I'm gonna give it 4 stars.
All right. Aaron?
I'm going to give it 4 stars.
All right. Matt?
Yeah, this is pretty close to Time Heist. I've been kind of trying to figure out what I really feel, if it's 4 or 4.5. So I guess I'll just go 4.5.
All right, Bill?
Well, this is one where if we were giving smaller fractions, I'd probably give it slightly higher, but I'm
No
not going to go
fractions!
high. I'm not going to go high enough to give it a 4, so I'm stuck with a 3.5.
All right. Well, I'm going to skew it above a 4 by giving it a 4.5. I believe I gave Time Heist a 4.5, so it at least has to qualify for that.
Mm-hmm.
That puts us at a 4.1 average.
4.1.
Yep.
That's a pretty darn good episode then.
Yeah, that's only one of 2, I believe, that's gotten rated above a 4.
Yes. And the other one being Time Heist, so this rate's pretty high up there.
What did Time Heist get?
A 4.2, I think?
Okay.
Somewhere in the 4.2-ish area, I believe, from what I recall. I believe it had an actual 5 or 2. Whereas this one was in the 4s pretty solidly.
Yeah, I'm surprised that everyone rated it at a 4 solid. So, because I knew it was going to be at least a 4.5 for me.
Actually, I'm showing. Yeah, time. Is this right? I'm at least during one of our Skype conversations about the average, you Skyped me that Time Heist had a 4.8. I didn't think it had gone quite that high though, but maybe.
I think it did.
It might have, yeah. So 4.8.
I know.
So
I know people were talking about me because I was only giving it a 4.5. If I want, I will go back and re-listen to Time Heist's final scores to make sure that's correct later.
But that can be done later. We've only got a couple minutes, so it is time to close.
Yep. We will be back. Due to Lip's maintenance next week, we do not know if we're going to be able to live stream our podcast or if we will do it on a later date or what's going to happen next week.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and feel it out depending upon how Twitch is acting.
Or yeah, Twitch, excuse me. On how Twitch's maintenance is going. But either way, tune in next week at some point whenever we do it, where we will discuss what is the name of the next episode again?
Flatline.
Flatline. Yeah. For me, Flatline makes me think, heartbeat.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a really awkward title for this episode when it doesn't have anything to do with a heartbeat, actually, from what we can tell of the trailer, at least.
Yeah,
that we know of, yeah.
Tensions, which is interesting. Either way, we'll see that on Saturday, and we'll discuss it in somewhere during the upcoming week.
Yep. Keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook. We'll try to keep you posted, whether it's normal time or whether Twitch ends up causing delays. We're hoping the maintenance is not scheduled during our normal streaming time, so
It's much earlier in the day, so hopefully by then any wonkiness might be gone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unless they completely change the interface and it interferes with our ability to stream again.
Yes, and to which case I'll face palm right into my desk and groan.
Either way, tune in next week. We'll discuss this. We'll discuss Flatline. See you then.
Good night.
Good night.
And our bombshell is, we're not ending on a bombshell.